Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of D&D Horror Stories. In today's episode, we have a story about a player that sabotages a game just because he's bored, a tale about a DM that doesn't know how to handle the party, and much more. But first, you know him and you love him. It's Lucky, the like and comment kitty. And yes, you'll get a treat after the video. So we better get into it. Player gambled away the party's ship, and then got them killed because it was getting boring. By Reddit user, Uncommonality. A few friends and I were running a modified homebrew campaign, loosely based on the rules of The Dark Eye and the setting of the game FTL, Faster Than Light. Essentially, they were all part of the crew of a small starship, with everyone choosing their race, class, and position on the crew. A pilot, engineer, shields guy, weapon guy. The only part I wholly stole from FTL was that every part of the ship could be damaged individually, so an enemy vessel could specifically cause damage to the weapon systems, which would then need skills, repair kits, scrap, etc. to fix. I hooked the party with a little mystery about strange alien monoliths being found on a few planets across the galaxy and causing people to go crazy, and off they went. I was the DM for the campaign, and probably could have been a little more heavy-handed, but I didn't want to risk breaking the group's fun at the time. The first few sessions went really well, and everyone found their groove. We're all sci-fi nerds, so they all had fun making callouts like in Star Trek and role-playing the bridge dialogue. The ship got upgraded, they installed new, more powerful weapons and such, and made a lot of progress in the main story. They were in the midst of defending a mining outpost which had found one of the monoliths from a small squad of mercenaries when a few bad rolls and an unintended combo in the enemy composition. Basically, the mercs had two fighters, which have very high evasion, and the player's ship didn't have any point defense and was mostly focused on taking out larger vessels. It caused them to take way too much damage to carry on. So, they landed at the mining outpost. The engineer got to repairing the ship's damage, 2 crew members got out to explore, and the last went to pick up their reward from the outpost administration. That last one is the problem player, Vic. I hadn't had any real problems with him, but he was very invested in roleplay, and his character was more on the edgy side. He was a veteran in the fleet and our weapons guy, and to cut him some slack, was pretty good at sussing out the weaknesses of the enemy builds I'd thrown at them. But he was also very much it's what my character would do kind of guy. So he went to pick up the reward, which included a clue for the campaign, a video log showing the thieves of the monolith flying away, along with their ship registration, and was returning when he suddenly sidetracked and asked me if there was a black market of some kind here. I said sure, because there was, and let him find a small roadhouse/tavern run by a cousin's, uncle's, nephew's branch family of a larger pirate clan. The place was tiny, had just a bit of a drug trade, a gambling ring, and some contraband. So I thought he was just being a bit edgy by mingling with smugglers and pirates, so I let him. The other players did their thing, bought a souvenir and rejoined the engineer to continue patching up the ship, but Vic was now full-on gambling in a den of inequity. The others had no idea where he was, and his rolls were very bad, with disadvantage because the people he was with were cheats, obviously, so they spent a while trying to find where he was. He first lost the reward, then his character's money, and all the while I was hinting at the guys that he was not being honest, but he just kept going. Eventually, the crew did find him, but he just bet their ship in a game of cards, and if they tried to intervene, they'd probably get gunned down by the entire pub. He lost, of course, and the ship was gone. I should have probably put an end to it there, because the mood at the table was getting sour, but I improvised a Grand Theft spaceship side quest about stealing back their vessel and getting out of there. Night falls, the crew sneaks into the spaceport undetected, and is just about to board in secret, when he says, "I pull out my pistol and shoot the guard in the head." I was unironically baffled at what the fuck he was doing. Like, is he trying to get everyone killed? Sure enough, the shot misses, and instantly the whole port's guard is shooting at the crew trying to be sneaky. They take some hits, and eventually get cornered in the engine room, where Vic deliberately shoots at the reactor core and causes the entire ship to explode, killing the whole party and destroying the spaceport, effectively ending the campaign. The whole party is left fuming, except for Vic, who just goes, "Finally, now we can do something else." It turns out he was bored of the game's setting and decided to ruin it for everyone else for his own entertainment. I kicked him out after that, but we were all out of energy by that point. I offered the rest of the party to roll back the last session and ditch Vic from the group, but they all declined because they felt like it was ruined. This was maybe a month ago, and I'm still fucking salty about it. Everyone seemed to have fun with it. The whole party got super into the roleplay aspect of space travel, and I had a whole story planned out and everything. And then one fucking guy has to go and ruin it. Well, that certainly sucks, because it seemed like everyone was having fun. Talk about being a selfish asshole. Trying to purposely sabotage a game from within just because you're bored of it. If you aren't enjoying the game, just say something, and maybe the GM can do something to make it more fun. Or there's always the option of just saying, "Hey, this isn't really for me, I'll be on my way." And I have to say kudos to DM for setting up a cool quest to regain the ship that player lost. Honestly though, at the point where Vic purposely let the enemy know that they were there for no reason whatsoever, that's when OP should have just seen that Vic was being that guy, and just paused and put a stop to his bullshit. And in looking at the comments from the post, OP even states that they wish they would have done that. But with anything, hindsight is 20/20, and hopefully OP was able to take a lesson from all this. Thankfully though, it sounds like OP and the rest of the players are now playing a cyberpunk fantasy game, and it's going pretty well so far, and hopefully it stays that way. Let's move on. Wait, what did we do wrong? By Reddit user, Roll for Apples. When I was trying to learn how Roll20 worked, to be able to run games as a DM, I joined a one-shot that was going to be tackling the classic Death House mini-adventure and 5e's Curse of Strahd. The DM told us what level to make the characters, and it was, at the very least, level 4, maybe 5, because everyone had a subclass at that point, something that will be important soon, and several people signed up for it. Of course, when game time rolls around and people start making characters, several drop out of the game and the voice chat, not wanting to play after all, and only leaving 4 players. We go through the opening hallway, and make our way to the living room kind of area, where there's a fireplace. But then, the DM says that we have to stop. That it was too hard of a mission to do with 4 players, because there was a flame skull that we would have to fight, and that there was no way for the 4 players to deal with it. I try not to metagame, but point out that technically speaking, we could handle it. The challenge rating is factoring for a party of 4, and the room we would have faced it in would have been at the very beginning, with the party full up on abilities and HP. But the DM continues, "No, there's no way for you to be able to destroy it for good. We have to stop." I reply with, "Okay, so we don't have to spell magic or remove curse, but if we kill the thing and trap it in the chimney, it doesn't matter if it comes back or not. It'll be trapped. It can't go up the chimney because the house doesn't allow exits. If it does fire things inside there, it's inside something designed to contain fire. Plus the shields we walked past will make a good barricade for the opening of the fireplace. And why would the house try to destroy itself when we just stepped in it?" But it was at this point that the DM quickly deleted the game and exited the Discord chat, leaving only me and the rogue. But at least I got the rogue to be a player for the game I ran. Yeah, that is certainly strange to just up and quit the campaign right after starting it. I mean, why even start after all the players dropped if you just thought it would be too hard for only 4 players? Plus, the DM could have always just adjusted things if he thought that the players couldn't handle it. I mean, it's D&D, you can basically do anything. Perhaps the DM was just stressed out about the other players leaving, and just wanted an excuse to leave himself. But hey, silver linings, OP found a new player for their game. And before we get to the final story of the day, Nipsey has something to ask.
Remember to like the video. I like people who like the video.
And we like you too, Nipsey. Now let's hop into the last story. Golblin War Campaign, now 100% goblin free. By Reddit user DragonStrike72. DM called us together for a Golblin War campaign that he straight up called out of the box. This was back during 3.5, and we had a session 0, not called that at the time, but we still used them. He wanted everyone to be tied into the goblins in some manner, to give us more investment. The characters are as follows: Human Ranger, me, Dwarven Cleric of Boredom, Halfling Rogue, and Elven Wizard. So we all tied our backgrounds in various ways. My character had grown up on the fringes of goblin territory, becoming a ranger like his father before him. I took point-blank shot and precise shot for my 2 feats, basically just letting myself be able to shoot into melee without the -4 penalty. I also took favored enemy, goblins. Note, goblins in 3.5 were an independent species of humanoid, not fae. Simple enough. I get a +2 to hit and damage against goblinoids, and a +2 to track and other such skills against them. Everyone was really amped. We were talking about how we were going to get our Battle of Helm's Deep, and we were ready to go. Halfling came from a village that had been raided and taken over by hobgoblins, and was looking to free her people from their bondage. The Elven Wizard was pretty much going after the goblins, because he knew what they would do to the forests to build up their war machine. Dwarven Cleric, well, they are pretty much born with a grudge against goblins, so that one was sort of a gimme. It started off fine. We got word of a massive goblin horde, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, on the march and coming straight for our kingdom, razing and pillaging the land as they went. We, and others, were quickly conscripted into the militia, and, given our special abilities, we were banded together as a group to carry out special attacks. Our first mission was to go after the vanguards, who would be coming ahead of the main horde. This amounted to bandit activities, but with goblins instead of humans. We went out, and it was going quite well. I took point as ranger, sniffing out ambush spots, and we were all doing fairly consistent damage, but not much in the way of crits or fumbles, so it was going about average. Since we all had horses, and I'm a ranger, I suggested that we could train at least my horse to be able to aid in tracking, since horses do have scent as a special ability. The group agreed with the idea, and we took what time we could between missions working on it. Then, at level 3, something changed. Our mission stopped being to do with goblins, and started being more generic adventurer fare. We figured, alright, this is cool. This gives us some other stuff to do, and break up the goblin stuff for a while. At first, it was nice. We got away from the same old bad guys, but it started to drag on, to the point where a couple of seasons went by in-game, with nothing but side quests. I finally decided that we should probably get back to the war front, which we were still getting word of going on, and we set out. We were level 6 by this point, and I had my animal companion, a wolf we had gotten studded leather armor and a saddle for, so that the halfling could ride it. She was psyched about the trip attack and stab combo. So I rolled a tracking check to figure out which direction the horde was from us as we rode, got a 34 as I nat 20'd the check, and was informed that there was absolutely no trace of them. I thought the DM was doing a deadpan thing, but no, he was adamant. We could not find them. So, checking our notes, we went by one of the towns we knew had been recently sacked and tried again. This time, I got a 27 to track 250,000 people marching in formation, with siege engines, mounts, and the like. And again, nothing. Not a trace. We got spells to help us out. Nothing. We checked for traces of magic that might be hiding the army's movement. Again, no. Across 3 full sessions, we were pulling out every trick we could think of in order to find this horde, and just nothing. Meanwhile, we're getting beset by monsters. The rogue is kind of loving it, cause she was making incredibly effective use of her sneak attack. That's when the next big change happens. We stopped encountering anything with an autonomy. Seriously, it all started being aberrations, undead, oozes, or if we did pull a humanoid, they had protection against flanking and sneak attack. When I got my next favorite enemy, I decided to test a theory and took undead. And surprise, surprise, the undead problem suddenly evaporated. Next, we perfected our strategies for fighting oozes, and again, suddenly, they're just gone from the world. This is where we finally stopped, and between sessions, came to a unanimous decision. Beginning of the next session, we pointed to the goblin capital in the map and stated we were running to sack it. This startled the DM. "But the horde is to the south of you." The rogue said, No, we checked south, pretty thoroughly." And the wizard stated, "So we figure there have to be goblins to fight in their capital, and we might just be able to draw the enemy back towards us to stop us from breaking their supply lines. Classic military strategy, really." We went round for several more minutes, detailing how this was our best shot, and the DM is steadily turning a shade of purple. It was the cleric who called an end to it. "Thing is, we wouldn't have to do this if you weren't making it impossible to find the main plot of your campaign. We didn't want to go here, but what's our option?" I almost started to put in there, but got the mom eye from Rogue, and the DM finally fessed up. When we had kept spotting ambushes and were acting very strategic from the start, he got scared we were going to face roll the whole campaign, so he shunted us off. Then, apparently, the rogue started getting regular sneak attacks in, and it threw him off further. And the combination of myself and the cleric against undead had him pulling the undead out. He finishes his rant about stuff, and it was quiet for a moment, when the wizard says, "You could have just given the goblins class levels, right?" And the DM responds with, "Wait, I can what?" Well, this is a perfect example of why communication is so important in tabletop RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons. If everyone just talked to the DM about how they are noticing things were going that way, the DM could have told them why he was doing what he was doing, and it wouldn't have taken multiple sessions to find out about that little tidbit at the end there. Which is a shame, since someone in the comments of the post asked if the campaign was able to continue after this revelation, but OP said that it kind of just petered out after that. And that's going to do it for today. Remember, if you have a story that you would like to be featured in a video, be sure to post it to the d&Ddoge subreddit, or even at me on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and let's check up on Lucky. Until next time.